Yeah, so obviously I did my A levels. I did physics, chemistry, biology, and maths. I originally did PE to begin with, but then I didn't like PE, so I resat and did the four A levels. From those, I got two A's, two B's, I think. Can't quite remember. And then I did biomed at uni because I wasn't particularly interested in medicine then. It was something I was looking at, but it wasn't like my top priority, if you will. I did some work experience while I was in A level because I wanted to do law or medicine, but I didn't know quite which one I wanted to do. So I did like a week in a law firm, a week in A&E, or a few days in A&E, I think. And then I decided I wanted to do medicine, but by then it was a bit too late. So I was like, okay, let's do biomed. I can do all the science stuff and the clinical application stuff. So I did biomed at York. Finished that. While I was at York, I did some work experience. I did about 2 years working as a bank HCA staff member in Neurological Rehabilitation Centre, which was quite good. Got to work at MDTs and stuff. Got to get a bit more stuck in the clinical side, which was great. I didn't want to take the GAMSAT while I was studying, so I took the year out to revise for the GAMSAT and to get more work experience. And in my year out, I worked as a activities champion / HGA member, which is as fun as it sounds. You write care plans for people and assess their needs and run activities.
Yeah.
So then I sat the exams out on my year out. I did the September one, and then I applied to I think St George's, Liverpool, Swansea, Nottingham. I got it at Nottingham, so
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah, I mean, going back to you either studying law or medicine, it sounds like you had that driving you from the beginning of wanting to study. Well, they're both competitive degrees and they're both really hard, solid degrees. So it does sound like that was ingrained in you from the start. So I guess my first question would be like, why medicine? What made you want to study medicine?
Big one. Well, the cliche answer is obviously I want to help people. I personally think that's a good enough reason for anyone. You should want to help people. But yeah, I was really interested in the science side of things. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do at uni in the first place. I was going to do like biology or chemistry or whatever, and then biomed seemed like the logical option to me because you could do all of them essentially. And then my friend said to me one day, they're like, "Oh, have you thought about medicine? It has all the science stuff and whatever." So yeah, why medicine? It applies all of the science stuff that you learn, and you can do it clinically and help people on a day-to-day basis. And just appealed way more to me than working in a lab, which some people just wasn't for me.
Yeah, I think the common answer is obviously everybody wants to help everyone, but then you've also got the strands off that of people rather want to be patient facing rather than obviously sat down in a lab all day. Again, everybody has their unique answer to why they want to do medicine, but I think it all comes under the same umbrella of you want to help people, you want to be patient facing, you want that day-to-day reward system rather than, again, if you're in research, you see a reward 3-4 years down the line sometimes. So completely agree with that. I guess starting off from the beginning of your application, we slightly touched on it, but how did you feel your specific volunteering and work experience helped you in your like decision to medicine?
So first of all, like obviously work experience, many people do it for like a tick box thing. But I think it's really important to pick which ones you want in particular. So like my HCA job, I work like 13-hour shifts, which helped me really see if this is actually something I actually want to do. I want to be working 30-hour shifts like a doctor would potentially. So I think the work experience for myself helped me see that I actually want to do it. Because at the end of the day, no one wants to work 13 hours unless you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
And you want to be there, you know?
Yeah. So
yeah, that's why I did my HCA job at the beginning, just to get an insight of what actually working in the medical field and working MDTs is like. Because although you're not working as a doctor, because you can't, but you still get insights into what it actually means. So it gives you realistic understanding, if you will, which is something I needed. So when I came to apply, it was easy to show them that I had a realistic understanding because I was searching it for myself to be like, is this something I really want to do? I'm going to commit the rest of my life to this. Do I really want to do it? So that's why I did as much as I could.
Yeah, I guess it sounds like you've had that previous experience and you've had that initiative to go and find out, is this actually for you, so that anybody can go and do 70 hours and get into Warwick. But it's actually having that preemptive thought of, yes, you can go do a degree in medicine, but is that actually what you want to do for the rest of your life? Because at the end of the day, you are setting yourself up for the next 40, 50 years at this rate.
Exactly, yeah.
So I do totally agree with that. I guess, obviously, you sat the GAMSAT. So just talking about the GAMSAT, how did you find the GAMSAT as a whole? You said that you studied the
Yeah, so
generic A levels.
yeah, so luckily I did like all the sciences, A level, and maths. So it helped a bit with doing the GAMSAT, but because I did that, I don't want to be complacent in the fact that I was like, okay, I do biomed. The science section should be easy. So I still took the science section very serious, just because it's a different, like, yes, you know the knowledge, but applying it in the exam is very different. Like, it's more like anyone can answer the questions if they have the set mindset to think around outside the box. You don't particularly need that science background. It helps, but you don't need it. So when it came to revising for it, I mainly focused on the first two sections. So like the I forgot what it's called now, the written communication or whatever, and the essay, because those were my like big ones. And I was like, okay, I know nothing about it. I don't write essays. I don't look at posters or whatever and say, what does this mean? So that's why I took the year out as well, because I thought trying to study all of that while studying my exams is a big task.
Yeah.
Which some of you would know, it's as hard to study for exams as it is, let alone another exam. So all in all, I found it pretty stressful. But I think I only revised for about 2 or 3 months before, because I was also working full time, so I kind of had to work around my actual job. So I don't think you have to revise for the whole year. I didn't take the year out and revise the whole year, but I think a few months before you should be okay.
No, yeah, I guess if you're revising for the whole year, you're just building up that pressure and that pressure. So I totally agree with that. I guess just to go back on that point, I had the Bailey Medics that you suggested to me. I had them on last night, and they gave the similar answer to you in that they came from obviously science background. However, they found revising obviously for the section 1 and section 2 the hardest, but obviously again you need to apply yourself in different ways. Obviously, if that be revising just like reading books and stuff like that was their advice. So
yeah, I read there's a book, it's the one that everyone should read. I'll send you the link for it so you can tell everyone. It's something about, it's a book that's got every different page is like an essay about things like justice and things. I wish I know the name. It's really helpful right now, but I'll send it to you so you know what it is. I'll think about it. I'll come back to it. Sorry. Yeah, I mainly read that book for the essay thing, because every single page is like a mini summary about what that actually means, like justice and stuff.
Yeah. So is that the main resource that you used, or is there any other like particular resources that you used to revise for the GAMSAT?
Well, I was very fortunate. I bought like all the past papers. I went through all of them. But there's a website called Ace GAMSAT, I believe. I use that quite a lot because it's got loads of questions for specific sections you can use. And then I used the book the day, like the weekish and the day before the exam. I like read through that book, being like, I need to ace this essay. So I smashed it. But I'll find what it is. I think it's like the meaning of things as well. I'll look it up and I'll let you guys know.
No worries, thank you. Yeah, I guess it begs a question on what made you choose the GAMSAT compared to the UCAT then.
So the UCAT I always heard was kind of like the problem-based thing just didn't really appeal to me. Whereas the GAMSAT I found like if you study enough, you probably will get the knowledge for it and pass it. So all my friends in the UK CAT was like, oh, it's really weird. Like you have to like think of this square plus that triangle equals what, and I was like, I don't know. Whereas like physics, chemistry, maths, I can study that. I know what that is. I can figure it out.
Yeah, that's going back to what the guys who I had on last night said, and they said the UCAT you can't revise for it, but you can prepare for it. With the GAMSAT, you can revise and prepare for it. So if you revise for the GAMSAT, you're almost guaranteed a decent mark. With the UCAT, it's again the GAMSAT's a marathon, not a sprint. The UCAT, you've got 2 hours, and that's your whole exam done. With the GAMSAT, there's a lot more leeway on what you need to know, and it's more content based. If that makes sense.
Definitely. You like the GAMSAT. So I watched the Gold Standard. There's a guy on YouTube. He's called the Gold Standard GAMSAT. So I got his book as well, and he does a few open days, open days. He does like a few free sessions in London, which you might be doing online nowadays. And all his videos are great because he went through all the past papers and really explained the logic behind it. So you can kind of not rope learn how to answer it, but compared to the UK CAT, it's something you can learn. I don't think you can learn the UK CAT. I have never done it, but I don't think you can learn it.
Yeah, totally. So I guess moving on to your interview stage, how many interviews did you get? Did you just get the one at Nottingham?
Yeah,
Or
so I just got the one in Nottingham. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to find the
was it?
video for you guys to find the book. So yeah, I just did the one in Nottingham because I only got I only got into
Yeah,
Nottingham.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, you got in, so
yeah,
it doesn't really matter at this point. But I guess Nottingham has the well, you would have had it during COVID, but
Mm.
was it like an MMI style or was it converted to like a panel style?
So it was supposed to be MMI originally. You're supposed to go in, but I was in the second batch of people, so it's like flipped to
Yeah.
almost overnight. So I prepped so hard for the MMI. Like, so a few of my friends, I got them to like Teams call me as well, and would have one person ask me the questions, one person observe me to see what's going on. And I practiced so many stations, and then they sent the email through about this panel, and I was like, oh, okay, well, let's go then, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
so I think because it's online nowadays, I don't know what their format is for this round, but it was panel for me. But it's supposed to be online.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it threw everybody off. So
Mm.
everybody was in the same boat. Obviously, most people would have been revising for MMI styles.
Yeah.
So you were kind of put in the same boat as everybody. I guess how did you find the interviews? I like to ask how do you find the interviews at Nottingham as a whole then?
I really enjoyed it actually. I think it was very. It's pretty like I want to say it's relaxed. But obviously, it's not relaxed as an interview. But it was very like how you think a medical interview is. They ask you the kind of standard questions you think it would be. Obviously, I can't tell you what questions they asked me.
Yeah.
But no, I thought it was okay. I've heard other unis are a bit more intense. But to me, it seemed okay. Like they clearly want you to go there. That's why they're interviewing. There's so many people applying. So by that point, I was kind of like, okay, let's just have a conversation, like you and I are having. Let's sell myself without trying to be like, okay, I've revised. I know what I'm going to do. I've prepped so hard. So in that respect, I think it was a bit more relaxed, you know?
Yeah, I guess this is a common factor that I've understood from having different people on is that everybody that's been successful
Mm.
has had that approach of well, they've sent me an interview because obviously they're interested in me,
Mm.
so let's go in and enjoy the process.
Exactly, yeah.
Obviously,
Because when you've been interviewed, that's an achievement in itself. Like, yes, okay, I got one, but you only need one. And the fact that you got an interview means you're good enough at that stage. So it's just your time then to talk to them and say, this is why I'm good enough. Okay, I'm good enough on paper. Now I can show you I'm good enough in real life.
yeah. So I guess obviously you did a lot. You did a whole year to prepare for your medical application. But looking back now, is there anything you wish you would have known before you applied, or anything you wish
Yeah.
you would have done better?
Um, I think the year out perhaps wasn't necessary in such. Like I took it out to get more experience because I didn't think had enough or whatever. But in hindsight, I probably had too too much. If you will, like 2 years working as bank was enough. I didn't need to then work as another year full time. So in that respect, I think I would have just applied straight away. But also looking back, there's no rush. There's people in my year who are much older than me, and there is no rush. So some people in that right now will be like, okay, I have to apply now in my second year. I have to apply so when I get out, I can go. There is honestly no rush. Go when you want to go. Go when you feel like you need to go. Because at the end of the day, in 4 years, you're going to be 4 years older. So what difference does it make
Yeah.
how old you are when you start? So that's my top tip. There's no rush. Go when you think you want to go. And if you don't get in the first time, I know people have like 5 cycles and eventually they get in. And it's like, okay, well they got it now. So it doesn't matter.
I guess this is the whole debate of do you apply when you know you have enough like you did, or do you apply just on a whim? Obviously, some people have applied on
Yeah.
a whim and
Mm.
obviously been successful, but it's trying to balance it's a balancing act of applying and getting the experience of applying, and then obviously you might get in or you might fail, or just waiting until you have enough. And I think sometimes it's better to apply and be on edge rather than just completely miss out that year and then just apply when you are certain that you have
True.
certain that you fit the criteria.
I think for that, so obviously I would have perhaps sat the GAMSAT in the March one because a lot of people like, I've spoken to, they're like, I said it in March because I knew what score I would get. However, because I sat mine in September,
Yeah.
I had no idea. So I was like, I'm just going to apply to all the GAMSAT ones and then hopefully they'll take me in. Um, but no, yeah, I think if you're doing work experience to start off with, like I said earlier, it should be something you want to do. So only like don't apply because you're like, okay, I've done all the work experience. I want to get in. I want to do medicine. Make sure that's what you want to do, because I can tell you now, the work the amount of work we do, you need to know this is what you want to do. You want to be here because of this. There's long nights and there's long hours are only going to drive you if you want to be there, you know? You're not going to get through them if you're like, oh, I did medicine because I thought it would be nice, and here I am. Not saying people do that, but I'm saying do the work experience because you want to do medicine and you want to get in, not because you think you've got enough to get in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So I guess going back to one of my questions is there anything you would have wished you would have known before you began your degree as a med student?
Yeah, I mean, I would have, like if someone told me by the get-go, you need to be organised from day one. People always said, "Oh, you need to be organised to be a doctor or whatever," and I was like, "Okay, yeah, that's good. I was organised. I did my stuff. Blah blah." Blah. No, you need to be next level organised. Especially like online nowadays, you have like the ability to do your own, like work at your own pace or whatever, because things are recorded. But you need to be on it. Your organisation needs to be way better. Like my undergrad, I was like, okay, I'm organised. I got through my stuff. Like I played sport and I was able to get like a 2-1. I was organised. It's fine. But no, medicine, it's a lot, especially GEM, because it's condensed a bit. It's a lot. So you need to be prepared to just take it on, you know, and be more organised. And yeah, I mean, that's, if someone told me, Daniel, make sure you're organised before you get in, I would have perhaps not been a bit more complacent in the beginning, and I would have been from the get-go just, okay, we need to go. And
yeah, no, I totally agree. I guess this is, just to go off subject a bit, I guess this is the biggest issue at the moment with GEM and normal undergrad, is that there's such a bottleneck for graduate entries wanting to apply to GEM, is that that's overspilling into the normal undergrad 5 years.
yeah,
And it's trying to balance that act of, yes, you can go and study a 4-year course, but then there's no finance for GEMs to study 5-year course.
yeah.
So then that's where the bottleneck of, obviously, some universities have like 30 applicants per one place.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where the competitive nature comes from. I guess how, coming from a BSc in biomedical sciences, how do you find the competitiveness from that degree like transfers to medicine? Is it the same competitiveness within like the cohort, or is it completely different?
No, I think it's a bit more different in medicine, like, because we're all trying to, well, it's the beginning now as well, so we're all very friendly, we're all trying to make sure we help each other out. But yeah, especially in my biomed, it was like everyone was competing for the top placements. Everyone wanted to be, is it JSK or something? I didn't really apply for a year industry, but everyone wanted like top level stuff. Whereas now everyone's like, let's just get through it together, let's study together. Like I study way more in groups now in medicine than I did in my undergrad. Like, because my undergrad, everyone was like, no, I've got this resource, you find your own. Whereas now everyone's like, let's go, let's work together. No,
yeah, I guess I can totally relate with that, in having it in such a stressful degree. Like, obviously you understand biomedical sciences, everybody is, instead of like medicine where you're most likely graded on like a pass or a fail, in biomed you're graded on, you want to be hitting those 70% or above, and if not, only so many students can hit that, and I guess that's where the competitive nature comes from. Again, those students haven't got into medicine yet, so they're all competing for that grade. So I guess you've been in medical school for, is it your first term now? Yeah, your first term. So is there any like particular myths or misconceptions that you had going into med school that have been, I guess, demolished?
My first myth that I thought is, I heard about like imposter syndrome, and I was like, nope, that's not going to be me. I know I want to do this, but no, I can't assure you're all going to feel it, but I definitely felt it when in the beginning. I was like, oh my goodness. But what reassured me is people like, Daniel, you're probably in the top 5% of people that apply because you got in. You deserve to be here. So that's a big myth that people think you're not going to get it because you're like, oh, I made it in, I'm here. It does come. Sometimes you're sitting there, you're like, oh my goodness, really, me? I have to study this? What? Also, time. I was told that you had like no time as a GEM. That's not particularly true. It's a bit true because you have a lot of work to do. But I think if you're organised, like I said, you can find time to do things. Because I remember one of my first lectures, they were like, find time to socialise and talk to your family. And I was like, why do I need to find time to phone my parents or whatever? And then now I realise, yes, okay, every Wednesday, let's have a family call or whatever. Every Thursday, we're going for a run, because you do need to organise that time. So yeah, as a myth, I thought, no, it won't be me. I'll have loads of time. I can go play sport. I can go whatever. And that, to an extent, that is true, but there's a lot of work. So you need to be really organised with that.
Yeah, I guess going back to the imposter syndromes, the Bailey medic said it they said it perfectly in that you've been climbing this mountain for a number of years now, and when you get to the top of that mountain, you feel like, am I supposed to be here? Because that's all you know until
That's
obviously
true,
you're
yeah.
there, and then you don't know what's after that. If that makes sense, and that's, I think, where the imposter syndrome kicks in.
Definitely.
So I guess in such a strenuous course like medicine, what keeps you motivated to like keep going on?
So for me, it was literally because like I spent loads of time to make sure I wanted to do medicine. So for me, I want to be a surgeon when I'm older. So I'm like, I need to make sure I crack on with this. And we had early clinical placements before lockdown and everything happened, and it was seeing patients and like the GP and helping them or whatever, like seeing how the GP works and be like, okay, this is what I'm working towards. And like small things like in Nottingham, we're based in Derby, so you can walk through the hospital to get into the medical school, and it's that simple walk in the morning, being like, this is what I'm going to do in the future. And then when you get in, you're like, let's go. Um, so that's what keeps you going on, is the drive to actually be the doctor, and seeing things like clinical placements where this is what we're going to do. And like our clinical skills, I live for our clinical skills every week because it's like actual practice. Like right now we're studying cardiovascular system, which is what you do in biomed. You study that as well. But going into clinical skills and applying that is like, oh my goodness, I'm here. This is what a doctor feels like. This is what doctors do. And that's what keeps me going when in like the long days. Be like, okay, on Tuesday we've got clinical skills. We're going to apply what we've learned, and this is what doctors do. This is you've made it.
Totally agree. So I guess how do you find the course content from biomed is like almost converted to medicine? Like, do you feel you can transfer a lot of knowledge that you've gained from biomed into medicine?
To some extent, so like our first module, I was like, okay, I know this. This is like my first like 3 years. But then in the back of my mind, well, I had like a lot of friends in the year above that was like, Daniel, don't be complacent. Just because you did biomed doesn't mean it's going to be easy. But like the new modules now, I think a great way to say is like you're in biomed, you're a master of everything. Like you have to know every specific detail. But in medicine, you're like a jack of all trades, if you know, because you have to know everything. Like, it's just everything. It's not as detailed as in biomed. Like I remember biomed, you had to learn like receptors or whatever, like the individual things. Whereas now it's like you need to know.
Yeah.
So
So
it does help. Don't get me wrong. It gives you like a bit of background knowledge. But I think to some extent, if you did like a non-science background and you're getting taught for the first time things like how the heart works, for example, you can always take that as face value. Whereas doing biomed, you're like, okay, this works because of this, and the bio, and you're like, oh, it confuses you more, if you will.
yeah,
So it does help, but you need to make sure you don't go down that like rabbit hole of being like, this is what we learn in biomed, this is what we're learning now. So yeah,
yeah. I guess especially with biomed, say you're talking about the angiotensin system, you focus on the receptor side of it.
yeah, yeah,
With medicine, do you think it's more of like a broad spectrum instead of? I guess the best way to explain it is biomed's more depth
yeah,
and
yeah.
medicine's more breadth, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah. Well, like my friend told me the other day, I didn't realize this myself, but every module we have is like on a system, and that's it. So in that system, you have to learn everything about that system. Whereas in biomed, you learn like again everything about that one receptor that does all this. So I think in that respect, medicine is a bit more broad because you kind of have to know everything. Whereas in biomed, you could specialize to study like work in a lab on one specific thing. So you need to know more knowledge like that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. So I guess on the flip side to it being a strenuous course, how do you find time for like self care and rest? Is
Yeah.
it easy in a gem course, or is it just all about time management?
Um, So it's mainly about time management. So every Thursday, for example, I set a time, regardless of how much work I've got to do. I'll go for a run, just because that's how I like to clear my head, reset. So I think it is possible. You can as long as you find time and you plan it in. Then there need to be some things that are unconditional. That's why I like to refer to it. It's unconditional. My run on Thursday is unconditional. No matter how much work I've got to do, it's needed because at the end of the day, I remember a story my mother told me when I was much younger. It was about like a guy who cut down trees and he like work harder than everyone else. But eventually he stopped cutting down the trees as quickly. And then his boss was like, "Have you taken time to sharpen your axe?" And it's like that. That's my little in the background when I go for my run. I need to take time just
That's yeah,
to sharpen my axe so I can come in and hit down those trees.
yeah. That's a great analogy. I do understand that. So Going back to Nottingham as a university, how do you feel? Obviously, like the teamwork, the competitiveness, like the nerves and the pressure is like a just in general from the university medical school experience.
Um, I think. Sorry. So you're saying like how the university
Uh,
works or something?
how does the university like as a whole experience? How's like the competitiveness, the nerves, and like the pressure of the university? Obviously, different universities have different like competitive levels. Obviously, you coming from a biomed degree, it was highly competitive. So how do you feel like that's almost differed to your med degree?
Um. So I think in my med degree, everyone's not as competitive at the moment. Everyone's still like similar in my biomed degree. No one wants to let anyone know that they're behind or whatever. No one wants to let everyone know like anything like that. So it's very similar in medicine. No one wants to let you know that they're like 4 lectures behind, blah blah blah. Everyone wants to make sure that on it. Everyone's putting something on their Instagram like, look at me, I've made all the lectures something like. So it's the same like that. But I think day to day, people aren't competitive. They're really very helpful because it's like, yeah, we finally made it. We're finally here. So there's no point to be competitive yet. Our clinical placements are coming. We'll see.
So I guess moving on to your degree, what does a week in a life at Nottingham look like then? Obviously,
Yeah.
COVID has probably changed a lot of things.
Yeah, so we start on Tuesday, as I'm pretty sure the Belly Medics told you. So we start on Tuesday. So we have about double PBL on Tuesday, and then we have double clinical skills normally. And then the only hectic day again is Friday when we have double PBL as well. But because everything's moved online and we have like asynchronous learning, so we like it's just pre-recorded lectures. You can't do what you want. So when you have PBL on Friday, you have to normally prepare for Friday session or then Tuesday again. So we have loads. We probably about have like 8 to 10 lectures a week, depending on the week, or sometimes a bit less if you're lucky. We work with the tasks and stuff. We have anatomy drop-ins occasionally, which are great because you have like pro sections. You can see what it looks like. But no, I think the positive thing about being COVID is that you can have it all online. So I like to get most of my stuff done by Friday if I'm lucky, so I can have the weekend off. It hasn't happened yet, but I try. So yeah, double PBL, clinical skills, lectures throughout the week, and then PBL at the end just to whip it all up.
Perfect. So it does sound like it's very split between problem based and you have your lectures to almost supplement that learning. Yeah. So I guess in regards to yourself, what's your vision going into the future? Then obviously you said that you specifically want to go into surgery, but do you have a vision
Yeah.
in mind? Or
Well, I've always kind of wanted to be a cardiothoracic surgeon because I really like. I'm very interested in the heart, and surgery as well. Just seems like to me, it seems like the cutting edge. It's like really challenging. It's physically challenging as well. Like I like to be practical. I think it's because I have a sports background, so I like to be really practical. Get stuck in. So yeah, hopefully cardiothoracic surgeon, trauma surgeon, A&E, something like that. Something that every day is like a challenge and not stressful, but get you there.
yeah, I guess every different patient will slightly be the same, but it'll be a new challenge every time. So I totally agree. You mentioned obviously your sport. Just to go back on your degree, how do you find managing your time with obviously extracurriculars and your sports?
Well, again, luckily because of COVID, it's easy. I don't
Yeah,
know. But no, in my undergrad, I think sport was a great way to kind of almost give me that pressure to work because I'm kind of like lazy in regards that if I've just got lectures to do, it can wait till tomorrow. But if I've got training and lectures and then training again, then it needs to be done now, kind of thing. So I prefer to be more hectic like that, keep myself a bit more busy. So that's why I go for my runs now, so I can be like, okay, if you want to go for your run on Thursday, then you need to get your lecture done today. So yeah, I endorse the pressure. I love the pressure.
no, yeah, I totally agree. So I guess for future medical students watching this video and our society members, is there any like golden pieces of advice you give someone just like going through the application process now?
Yeah. So my first advice is the work experience you do, make sure it's what you want. There's no such thing as the best work experience ever. Trust me, I try to get into like all the surgeries or whatever because I was like, oh, if I get a open heart surgery, it's gonna be amazing in my interview. No, that's not the case. They don't really care like what you did. They care like how you reflected. So whatever you did is is good as long as you wanted to do it, you know. And yeah, when it comes to the interview, literally the only thing that makes you different from everyone else is you and is your stories, because everyone that's applied to GEM has a degree. Everyone that's applied's got work experience. Everyone's on the GAMSAT. So just be yourself and tell them what you've done, and tell it, like, reflect on it properly. And yeah, my last one is to make sure you're organised. Like, I cannot stress this enough. Trust me, you need to be really, really organised. Get on it.
Perfect. So I guess, and finally, for people starting out their first day in Nottingham, what would be your take-home tips for those students?
First day, I would say just enjoy it. You've made it. You finally made it. Just take it in. Whatever's going on, just be like, oh, you know, I finally made it. Yes, you have to do work, but you're doing work to do medicine. You're in now. So just bring it in. Like, clinical skills. Sometimes people take loads of notes or whatever when they're clinical skills. I'm just there like, guys, we're learning clinical skills today. Come on, just embrace it. We're going to use our stethoscopes today. Oh my goodness.
I mean, that's a pinnacle of a medical student when you first get to use your stethoscope.
Yeah, definitely.
The first time. Yeah, I mean, you've answered all my questions, and I can guarantee you've inspired me and the other people watching this video. It's really commendable that you actually took that time out and you made sure. Not many people make sure that they want to do medicine. I guess maybe that's because it's been ingrained in them, or they've known from a young age. But
yeah,
I think it's fantastic that you actually took the time out to ensure this is what you actually want to do for the rest of your life, which is a big decision at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I definitely recommend it, because anyone can do work experience, but you need to have the passion to drive you at the end of the day.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I guess finally, is there anywhere our viewers can find you online or get into contact with? Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, so you have my Instagram, Dan MacMedic, and my YouTube channel, which I've done like loads of interview prep on there. I had a GAMSAT tutor on there, so you can also message me about that, and I can get up some questions.
Yeah, I'd really recommend your actual GAMSAT videos. I think we talked about it previously. They do go into a lot of detail, and they are really useful if you are looking to study the GAMSAT. Thank you for that.
It's great that we could get a tutor on to tell you the things that some people don't tell you, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, thank you for taking the time out of your evening to come speak to me.
Message me whenever. If anyone has questions on Instagram, just message me.
Perfect. All right, thank you, Dan.
It's all good. Have a good evening.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.